Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let's wait a couple of minutes if you want before starting. I think when you come in, you are all muted. But for me, it doesn't matter if you want to open, it's fine. Because I'll try to do a little bit interactive if you could do that. Hello, everybody. I'm starting to introduce myself now. Yeah. Is there anybody that cannot hear, please let me know. Let us know. Okay, my name is Kemal Nuraydin. I'm originally from Turkey, and normally I live in London right now. I have a company in London doing photography tours in UK, Turkey, and internationally. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips about photography tonight. I mean, of course, like photography is really, really big, you know. So that's why I'm going to give you like a hint of that. First of all, I really thank everybody for joining me tonight. And as I say, I'm going to give you like three main things about photography. This will be the light, composition, and angle. So especially when you travel or you are using your mobile phone. The same thing, of course, applies for the camera, but I mean, most people today are using mobile phones. So mostly I'll be talking like a bit about the mobile phones, but as they say, this can be easily used for the cameras.
Hey.
And I'm hello.
Sharing plans.
Yeah.
Very strange piece of decor that I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. What is that?
Transport this.
Very.
Is everything all right? Hello. So my name is Kemal Nuraydin. I studied law, but I really didn't like it. You know, I studied law for quite a long time. So when I was studying law, one day I decided to be a photographer, and I bought my first camera. So after buying my first camera, it took me like 10 years to finish my law school. Normally it was only 4 years. So it was like quite an interesting experience for me. And I can say that changed all my life. And I've been living on photography since then. So today I'm going to give you some small assignments. Anybody who wants to do them, they can do them during the session. But if you don't want, that's also fine. But if anybody can send 1 or 2 pictures in the chat, I can just comment on them. And about the questions, I'm fine about questions. You can ask me in the chat. You can ask me later. That's fine. I'll give some time for questions. And I'm going to tell a little bit about my philosophy, like about my photography philosophy also, and how I'm approaching to people, how I'm doing my job, stuff like that. So thank you very much again for joining this session. And now I'm going to share my screen here because, you know, I'm doing photography tours. I'm taking pictures, but also I'm doing photography tours. What is photography tour? Normally, when we go somewhere with somebody, you know, I'm just taking pictures myself as usual, of course. But this time I'm not really taking the picture myself. I'm just explaining to the person next to me how they can take a picture. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the picture in my mind. Mostly I'm trying to let them find their own picture if they could. but just thinking them how a professional photographer will think. And my style, I'm a bit old school. I never set up anything. There is nothing, no setup in my pictures. I never did it, except maybe some portraits when you ask people to look at you or something. Okay, that's fine. But generally, I'm like a very, very classical minded person. And there is almost, I mean, not almost, no setup at all. And here, I just want to show you this picture. This is shot in Ethiopia. Is like a priest. I went into the church, and this priest was there, and he was like very much. He looked very much like the guy on the left. Is another priest who established the church. And then I wanted to get a more interesting picture. So I'm telling you that to just tell you how I'm communicate with people. You know, what kind of ways I'm using, or how do I get my shot. So I could talk to the guy, but I didn't want to talk to him, or I didn't want to, because then I would miss my real picture. Because when you ask people, okay, can you pose for me? Then it's really difficult to catch them naturally anymore. So instead of talking to him, I just rolled my eyes like that to the picture in the back, like, you know, like something very interesting, but still I have my camera in my hand. And as soon as he looked in there, I took this picture. And this picture ended up being a cover of a photography magazine eventually. So this is the way that I'm, you know, approaching. And there are many ways, but this is one of them of approaching people. So here, I don't know how many, if anybody can comment, you can comment on it. How many people do you see in the picture? This is another thing that I like very much. I really like to put things in my pictures that hard to see sometimes. And that was a great opportunity. If you look carefully here, you see like two eyes, just, you know, they're aligning with the lights, city lights in the background. So in this one, I want to take this couple, like this, you know, woman in burqa. I want to take the picture, but I was also a bit like hesitant because I thought the guy would be really upset in this case. So I approached to them, I look at them, and the guy said, oh, would you mind taking our picture? Could you take our pictures? I said, oh, of course. And then I took the picture, and then I sent them, I sent the picture to them. So eventually I was able to take this one. And as you see here, it is a lady here in like a back streets of city, like really poor neighborhood of Istanbul. So I was always going to the same street and communicating with her and talking. And one day she felt so comfortable, she started to dance for me. Okay. Yeah, and this picture is in a marketplace in Romania. So here, just like a couple of pictures, you know, because I talk to the guy, communicate with him with my eyes, and the way that, you know, mostly I'm using body language. So the guy was like so eager to have his picture taken. So he took both of his horses. He's actually Hungarian gypsy in North Romania. And then he gave me this picture. I mean, he posed for me. I didn't ask him to do that, but he just did himself in this case. Okay, now I'm going to the class part of this workshop because, you know, it's after a couple of pictures. I'm going to share this time here. In previous Zoom meetings I did, mostly I could hear people here. Everybody isn't unmuted. I'm a little bit unusual for me. So sometimes I'm having problems. You know, I feel like, you know, really alone here. Actually, I watched some of the Zoom meetings on ASW before, and they said the same thing, exact same thing like I did right now. Okay, so this is a picture in a church. Now here I'm starting to tell you the real class part, which is like has three main things. But again, in this one, I just want to give you this example. I was in a church, everything was extremely serious. The priests were around. This was a story about like a Christian Orthodox community, Arab Orthodox community living in Turkey. So this is in southern Turkey. So these kids, they were just, you know, carrying these candles. For one moment, they start to chat, and, you know, like they were totally unrelated. They are not connected with the environment. So I was sitting in front of the church watching the service, meanwhile taking pictures. So as soon as I saw that, I just took this picture, you know, and then we cropped it and became cover of National Geographic magazine in Turkish edition. Okay, I mean, as I say, this is like the way that I'm working, and nothing is set up, everything is natural. So the first thing is light. The light is the most important thing in photograph. If mostly we photographers, if the light is not good, you know, we prefer not to take the picture. Today, with digital photography, this is much easier. Why it's easier? Because like you can see the result immediately, and if you decide if it's okay or not. But basically, classically, photographers, they take pictures 1 hour before the sunset and 1 hour after the sunrise. So these are the best times, so we can get the best possible soft light. That may change also in winter. In winter, you know, in some countries, the light is coming very low, so that still works. So here, I just want to give you this picture here. There is kind of cinematic effect because of the light coming from the background. So it makes a nice silhouette here. Okay. And that's another. I was here again in Istanbul, and I was on the ferry. So I saw this girl was, you know, just like looking away, and there was some sunset light on her face. So I was next to her. I mean, I can say maybe half a meter between me and her. And when I take pictures, something that I do very often, and I generally recommend to my clients all the time, I never hide myself. I never sneak. You know, I always show my camera, you know, so people know that I'm taking picture. Because in my opinion, there is nothing to hide, and also it creates an easier communication with people. So I just, you know, kind of showed my camera, and still she didn't react. For me, that was an okay. And then I come really close and took this portrait from, you know, almost next to her face. So again, the main thing that pushed me to take this picture is the light, because there was really good light. So when I go to an assignment, for example, I need to take pictures somewhere. It could be destination or whatever, because I started with travel photography and then mostly our people and culture, stuff like that. But mostly when I first started, I was doing mostly travel. And then during the morning and late evening hours, I was shooting outside. But when the light was really strong, then I was looking more for interiors. That could be a marketplace, you know, sometimes a museum, etc. So I could take, you know, use my time more effectively by going in a place where the light will still be good. So that's why, as I say, if there is no good light, there is no good picture. This one, I don't know if you can see it clearly. I hope you can. Here, I'm going to show you a trick to take like better lit portraits. They're both taken by a mobile phone. You know, actually, this guy is quite famous chef. So went to his restaurant to have something, and they say, "Oh, you are a photographer. You should take my picture. You should take my picture." But I mean, nothing is perfect. The light is really bad. I went there to eat, you know, not to take pictures, and I didn't have camera. I had my mobile phone. So I just took the first picture. Well, of course, it was not okay because the light was not even. It was not as good as it should be. So then there was another friend next to me, and I asked him to hold a second mobile phone and put it on his eyes, on his face. So doing it like that, I was able to get this picture like that. It's much better lit. So now, if there is somebody around you or there's something you can do about it, or I don't know, it could be even an object, like, because now in Europe, mostly it's night. And then there isn't a good light around the objects or people. So you can try to take a picture of somebody or something like that, just using an external light. The external light can be torch, can be another mobile phone. But I mean, it's very, very effective way of getting things look much nicer. So if somebody would like to do that and would like to share their picture, I'll be happy to comment on it. And something that also I have to tell you, in Europe today, most mobile phones, like now I have, for example, here, I have an iPhone. Okay, in this iPhone, there are 3 cameras. One of them is wide angle, one of them is like normal angle, and one is tele. And normally when we are using cameras, when we are using normal cameras, we are using lenses to open the aperture and blur with the background. But today's these phones, they have a portrait mode where this will be done by portrait. So this picture that you saw right now, it was taken by portrait mode. So I recommend using the portrait mode in this case. And just a minute. I'm just going back to the picture. Oh, sorry, it went too far. If you see in this one, I mean, the background is blurred because I use the portrait mode. Why in mobile phones we cannot really create this naturally? Because the sensor is very, very small. When the sensor is small, the sharpness, like depth of field, is more from front to back. So that's why in this phones or any kind of small cameras, they have to use it they have to make it in a different way, because normally we can use like aperture 1.4 to 2.8, but in the phone, even if you use 2.8, you still have a lot of depth of field. So that's why it's created with a software, and you can get this only in software in portrait mode. If you don't use portrait mode, if you just use normal mode, the background is going to be sharper. Is there anybody who would like to share any picture, or shall I continue? You can also unmute yourself and talk, it's fine.
I cannot share photos because I cannot share screenshots. You told in the beginning that we should post screenshots in the chat, and I cannot. I don't know why, but it doesn't work.
I think in the chat, yeah. I didn't do it myself, but in some of the workshops we've done, it was possible. If not, I mean, you can just take my email, send me, I'll be happy to comment on them, no worries. In this case.
Okay.
Okay, so no worries. And also, I'm also quite old member of a small world, so please feel free to add me as a friend, and you can ask me anything, anytime. Because I'm doing photography tours, but I rarely, I mean, almost never do group tours. I don't like to go out with 10 photographers. I'm always doing everything in private. And here, as I say, is like, of course, doesn't feel like the real life. In the real life, we are just going into the things and taking pictures. And of course, it's like it becomes more different. This is a new thing for me, like online, and I've been doing it for a year, but not very often. So I'm still getting used to it, let's say. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the composition. When it comes to composition, there is for me, I mean, a very, very basic rule. It's very simple. Don't put anything in the middle. I mean, if you put something in the middle, generally the composition is not going to be really nice. Sorry, I need to close this chat. So this also applies for the sky. So if you look at this picture here, the sky is about 1/3 and the land is 2/3, and everywhere is filled. So there is not really big empty space. So that's why it's a good example. If you look at this one here, it's cut right from the middle. So that doesn't look good. So it's not really nice, and the foreground is really empty. So also we don't recommend do that. And if you look, it's really a boring picture. But sometimes you can do the sky like 2/3. Like in this case here, there is a rainbow ball, or if there are really beautiful clouds or something like that, you can give the sky like 2/3 and you can give the land 1/3. So that's showing that here. And then if there are some people, the people shouldn't be facing outside like that. I mean, if you're looking at this example, like the one below, if you look at this guy, he's looking away, so that doesn't really work. Here, what we want to do, we want to let the guy, put him instead of this, the cross here normally. But if you cannot do that, if there is somebody or something, or it could be tree or whatever, that also works here for the composition. Sorry, I'm kind of, it doesn't move, and yeah. Just give me a second, I apologize. I will open the PowerPoint because this is like really doesn't look nice here.
In the meantime, I could send a whole photo to the chat.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Let me see. As soon as I stop screen sharing, I'll check it out, okay? Because now I'm just having some problems with, let me see, okay. We were here, I just got to the wrong one. Okay. So as you see here, I mean, you shouldn't put anything right in the middle. It's always better to give 1/3 from left, right, top, or down. It doesn't really matter. Okay. And now at the end, I'm going to show you some examples of that. And here, as you see, if someone is looking away, it could be dog, it could be person, whatever, there should be always more space in front than in the back. If there isn't, then you can make a balance in the picture like you see here. It says sharing is paused. Cannot you see it anymore?
Hi, Kevin. We can see the screen share.
Oh, okay, because it says sharing is paused, so I just thought like, you know, something could be wrong.
It's-
Okay.
I can see
Yeah.
also.
Okay. Okay, here again about the composition, something really most people don't even mention that, but I want you to look at these three pictures. I don't know which one you pick is the best one, but I'm gonna tell you like if you look number one, this is a mistake that people often make it very often. When you shoot somebody, you know, against skyline, it could be like city, it could be I don't know, anything. I mean, anything in the background. You see the head here is just like kind of blocking the background, so it's like mixing, melting into it. So that's why I always recommend people going a little bit higher or lower. You see here in higher, so you can see the person more into the water, so he's much clearer. Or as you see here, yes.
1 second. We can still see the images with the house.
Oh, really?
Perhaps, yeah. So perhaps you can somehow close the previous screen sharing and
just. I think I got the problem. I have to quit this one. I don't need.
Yes. Now we see
Okay.
what you're doing there.
Yeah. I got it because I mean one
No
of them
worries.
actually was the file that I need to
That's
work.
fine.
Another one, the one I was working on it.
Yeah, that's
So they
fine,
just
that's
messed
fine.
up.
It's just you can share the screen again once you
Okay.
can.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now can you see it? This one?
Screen share? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just let me go to the normal. I'll stop screen share. I'll go to Zoom now. Okay.
Yes, you're on full screen now.
Okay. Can you see me right now?
Yes, but not the screen
Okay, that's
share.
perfect. Because now I'll see if they share the picture. I'll just check this now. Check this one.
Sure.
Oh, very cool picture. If one, maybe I can share the screen so you can see it. I mean, it's not exactly what I asked for, but it's a really nice picture with the water in front, the sky. I mean, the reflections is a really cool one. And in this picture, I'll share the screen in this one. But I don't know how can I show. Yeah, this one here. Because this is a little bit different, but it's a nice example. If you look here, the picture in this one, the horizon is almost in the middle, but here it works. This is a good example of that. Why it works? Because there is a nice reflection. So we can see the sky and we can see the water, you know, here and the sky together. So it makes a nice reflection. And it is one that makes a very, very cool example of picture that you can put things right in the middle. So that give me like a nice opportunity to talk about that. Normally, if you cut this picture right from here, just, you know, where there's the reflection, it would be really a bad picture, but it's a nice one. And if you hate to cut it, normally I recommend cutting the top more than the lower part because it becomes a more surprising picture like that. Okay, so thank you for sharing this picture. Also, it gave me opportunity to explain something that, you know, I was not talking about right there. Because I mean, here is I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible, and I'm not going too much deep into the things, but it's nice to have this opportunity and comment on that. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else that anybody shared? Anything else? No. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, I'm a bit excited. I'm normally not a very excited person, but you know, this time, I don't know, somehow at the last moment I wanted some things. I was a bit. I'm not. I talk normally very fast. I never stop, but. Okay, I apologize. So now I continue here. I'm sorry, it sounds a little bit like too boring or theoric. But as I say, we can be sure that workshops are not like that. I mean, the real ones, one-to-one ones are not like that. Okay, another very important thing, as I told you, the light is important. And also here in these ones, the composition is important. But in these ones, something I want to tell you, always when you go take pictures, think about moving left, right, up and down to make your picture more interesting, or get closer or get away from it if necessary. So just don't take it and shoot, you know, whatever you see. Always think that there could be more opportunities. That's why something I always say, when you go out to take pictures on your own, you always can be more creative. But if there are a couple of people or friends, or if you go as a group of people, then you cannot really concentrate on photography. So the pictures you are taking are not going to be as nice as you were alone. So because when you are alone, or someone who is also taking pictures and concentrating on photographs, then you can be more creative, you can find more angles. So the first one, number one, as you see, the guy here is like, you know, just taken, and then he's overlapping with the background, with the city skyline here, which is not good. So in the second example, we go lower, and also here there are the pavement here, and that creates kind of leading lines toward the guy that adds a it makes it more interesting picture. Here there was a dog. I want the dog to hold his head, but he didn't. But as my rule, as I told you always, this picture is taken just to show in this class, actually, in these classes. But I don't like to go and disturb the dog and make him, you know, hold his head. So he was sleeping, so I left him sleeping. So here, the pavement is kind of leading lines, and the guy is at the end of it. And then because he's raised in this case, you can see his head is in the sky. It becomes a much more interesting picture. In number 3 is also comparing to the first one, it's better. Is still good, and in my opinion, but of course not as good as the number 2, which has also additional advantage of leading lines. But still, as you see, when you move a little bit, you can get a more interesting picture. That's a good example of that. Okay, we go to another one. As you see here, this is like is in one of my workshops I'm doing in Istanbul. We go to old caravanserais, and we find really old historic workshops where people casting, you know, bronze, silver, aluminum sometimes for, you know, the same way they've been doing for hundreds of years. So while doing that, we just go wide angle and change our angle, go down. So, you know, take it from totally different angle, totally from the ground up. And like that, you could get a much more impressive picture. And you can see the workshops, everything in the workshop, you know, the things in the wall, the tools that he's working with, the way how he's like pouring his, meanwhile, this one is bronze. So he's casting bronze in these metal things, and inside there is sand. So it takes shape of the hollow area in the sand, while he's emptying this molten bronze inside. So that's, again, you know, always try to find a different angle. One thing that I always say, like if you go somewhere with, let's say, 10 friends, and you want to take a picture there, let's say I'm there, you are just coming with me, and you are trying to learn photography with me. I can tell you, okay, guys, just go around and take the best picture you can get. So what you should do as a person, what I recommend you doing, you should just think, what about other 9 people? What are they going to do? And then I should do something none of them has thought of. By thinking like that, you can always be more creative. And if 10 of these people, they all think the same way, you can get really unusual, interesting pictures. So that's why I always recommend people, what the other may think, what they can create, think about it, and don't do it, and try to do something else. This means always try to find your own way, your own options when you take pictures. That's another thing, again, like, you know, if it's a good example of composition, but also light. Here is right, the sunset is almost like going to the end, is like end of the sunset, and the guy is selling water. So I came to this angle, I really like it, because like the guy on the left here and the guys on the right, they create kind of, how can I say, they create a closed area in the picture, and it makes us concentrate on the water and the light on it. It's like kind of self-contained pictures, and we don't need anything to add anything or remove anything from the picture. So that's why it's like one of my good examples for good composition, coming closer to people, creating an unusual angle, also using the good light, coming through the water bottles. And this is something we call frame in a frame. This is partly kind of frame, you create frame with people here, but this is more direct. If you have an opportunity when you go somewhere, this is taken in Uganda, in a lake in Uganda, and they are good friends of mine actually sitting there. But taking their picture through this canopy makes it more interesting than taking it direct. Imagine like we didn't have the canopy and they're just sitting there, and then I'm taking the picture of them with the lake. That would be really very usual, very boring. But when you see any kind of, I don't know, it could be a hole in the wall or anything that could make the picture more interesting, just use it as a frame. And each time you come closer with your lens with it, and with mobile phone, it's really, really easy, because with camera, you may have focusing problems. But in mobile phone, you will not have that, especially if like you really get close. And then you can take pictures through them. We call this frame in a frame. So that's a good example of a frame in a frame. So this is a way of making your picture more interesting and add more depth to your picture. And also something very important, previously I told you today, or mobile phones, or if you have a camera, of course, it's to be the same if you have a zoom lens. They have like wide angle, like 0.5x here, 1x, and 2.5x. And something that I want you to notice here, I tried in all of them to take exact same picture in all of them. That's what I wanted to do actually. But eventually, as you see, they look quite different. If you look at the bridge in the background, in this one, like in the 0.5x, like it's wide angle, is almost close. It's not even there. In this one, in 1x, you can see it, but it's not very important part of the picture. But in the telezoom in 2.5x, which is I used iPhone 12 for that, you can see the bridge is much larger. And of course here, for the wide angle, I had to come close. So then you emphasize the object in front, and anything in the background become really small. And this is more equal to, let's say, almost 50. It's also still wide angle, but we are closer here. In this case, I came closer to the subject. So I can say they are equally important. We are taking portrait of this girl here, but showing the background, the Bosphorus and the bridge. But if you really want to show the background, let's say if you go in front of Eiffel Tower and you want to have a picture with Eiffel Tower, of course, you can get really wide angle, and then if there is distance between you and Eiffel Tower, the tower is going to look really small. When people, they go to Pisa Tower and they put their finger, they use that technique, of course. But if you want to show the background more, if it is important part for you, then what do? You need to use tele, like this one. So in all of these three pictures, all I tried to do, trying to get exact same picture, but using different angles. So the angle that you are using is very important. And remember, it's very, very important. Using a different angle is not the same like getting closer. Getting closer is something different, and using an angle is something different, and depends what kind of effect would you like to create. I can give you another example about that. Let's say you go to Africa and you want to have a picture with a giraffe, and you are sitting on the car. If you use wide angle in this case, you will be really big, and the giraffe in the back will look very, very small. So this is not the effect that you want to create. So what you want to do for that, you want to have the background to look much larger. So you need to use tele and go further. So then the object in front, the person, or like you are full shooting, will look much more smaller. And the background, the giraffe, is going to look really bigger. So this is like an example, just trying to show you using different angles in the lens is not the same like coming closer to the subject. And here, if you can, I just put a practical assignment, if anybody can do that. Just, find any object in the room and something in the background, and try to take this object with 3 different angles and see how the result is going to be. You don't have to share this picture with me, but I just want you, for example, there is a flower at home right now where you are. You can put the flower and something in the background and use ultra wide, wide, and telelens in your mobile phone or camera. And then you'll see that the effect is very different. And for me, it's important that you understand the difference. Then you share with me. It's not really important for me that you just get the difference in all of them. And here also, if we have time, let me see, 35, 40 minutes it's been right now, I guess. I would like to show you a couple of pictures and talk on them. And if you want, if anybody have questions, I can also take the questions. First, let me stop sharing so you can see me here. If anybody have questions, you can ask them. You can unmute yourself and ask it. It may be easier. And I'm ready to answer. And then I would like to show some more pictures trying to clarify what I told you. Because I don't know, I mean, just because being alone and, you know, because I don't have a regular feedback, I feel like a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's boring or something. So if we can make it a bit more interactive, as I say, you can just unmute yourself, ask questions if you have any. And also I'm going to show you more pictures to clarify what I'm trying to tell in all of these and maybe some other things. But please feel free to ask questions meanwhile. Okay. Now I'm going to share my screen again to show you some of these pictures. Okay, go over here. So previously I showed a couple of pictures and communication with people. And here, you know, some of the examples, like this is soft light. Here, as you see, this is taken by drone very early in the morning. And as soon as the sun hits this hill.
I'm sorry, I only see your list of photos.
Sorry, what do you see?
Your list of photos. I do not see, I see your file structure.
Just, okay, just a minute. I think, yes, there's something here. Yes, just a minute. I'll try to fix that. Not this one. I'll stop screen sharing and try to go back. Just a minute. Still you see list of photos, right? Yeah, it's not where it should be.
We can't see the image at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't go there. Previously we tried that and it worked fine.
Yeah, before it worked.
Yeah.
Yes, now we see.
Did you see right now?
Yes, now we see the fishing people.
Ah, that's interesting. But I don't know what's the difference between now and the previous one. But anyway, so the first picture here is taken by a drone. And normally we started before the sunrise and waited the first light to hit the hill from one side. So as you see, extremely soft light coming here. And then that makes it quite an interesting picture with the soft light. This is again like almost sunset and people are fishing here. So using the control light, shooting against the light, we could get this interesting effect here. About composition, here I told you earlier, the sky is 2/3, but in this case, there is a rainbow. So we have a reason to make it 2/3 in this picture. And here, there is a wedding in Bulgaria, like it's a traditional wedding in a countryside. And here, as you see, the main object is the bride, and her face is all painted in white. And we put her in the front third of the frame. As you see, all the hands are leading to her. So when you look at the picture, you directly see like all these hands kind of leading and showing her. In this one, this is like I took in Guatemala, Antigua. In this case, these ladies were walking. I was trying to their pictures. I was chasing them. At one point, they just stopped like that, you know, and look at me. And it was a perfect moment. I took the picture Then I bought a flower from them. As a principle, I don't like to give money to people when I take their picture, because if I do that, they get used to it and they start asking money from every person who wants to take picture, and we literally help them becoming beggars. In my opinion, that's how I think. That's why I don't like to give money to people when I take their picture. I don't offer money to them. But in this case, they saw me that I was trying to take their picture, and they've been so nice, and the background was perfect. So I bought a flower as a, from them. Also, when we talk about the composition, one thing that to mention, try not to cut the bodies like hands, arms, heads, except head and shoulder, and the belly and whole body. Prefer not to cut parts of the body unless it makes sense. What does it mean to make sense? Like you see in this case here, the people are on the beach as almost sunset, and I cut this person right in the middle. And the reason I'm doing that, there is a reason here. By doing that, I create the effect like there are much more people to the right. If I didn't include this, just include, cut it with this girl here, you should think, okay, there are people, like 4 people on the beach. But by adding this half body here, actually, as I say, it has a reason. So you know that there are more people to the right. So just, used for a reason. Talking about angles, I was doing a story about wine, and it's published in National Geographic magazine again. And in this one here, I just put my camera down on the floor while this girl was cutting the grapes. And you can see second face in the background. There's a second woman in the background. I tried to get her, but because she was in the back, she was really small in the picture. But for me, it's surprise of the picture. So that makes it interesting. Again, talking about angles, I took this picture from lower angle. And this story, actually, I have a work about Kurdish nomads living in the mountains. They are totally nomadic people living in the mountains, living in the tents, and they migrate to their transhumance people, migrate from one point to another to graze their animal. So this story actually is in Wichita State University. They have an anthropology museum there. So it's in permanent collection. So this picture is from there. While I was visiting their tent, they were trying to offer me, they were offering me tea. And I took this picture again with really wide angle and lower angle. This is a little bit interesting picture, but it's kind of frame in a frame, we can call it. But on the other hand, here Lenin is got very famous. This is taken in St. Petersburg, Russia. He's got a very famous picture where he's holding his hat and while he's talking, and then the guy he's roller skating. This picture is a bit old, I can say maybe 15 years old, 10, 15 years old. So it was really nice contrast. In one way, telling like Lenin is telling about communism, this and that, about his speech and the new generation. But don't think with today's mind, think about like 15 years ago. Yeah, this one we had it already. Yeah, this is a portrait, but again, if you look, there is an unusual angle here. I took this in Nepal, and I approached to the guys. I spent some time there looking, taking a couple of pictures a little bit far. And when the guy looked at me, I smiled at him, come closer, and he was selling stuff. How can I say? They're kind of jewelry, handmade jewelry, but from natural material. So I come really close until they became like out of focus, and I took his picture through that. And I also wanted to keep the other guy on the right side because he added kind of depth to the picture. It's kind of portrait, but I can call it more like environmental portrait, like the guy who was like pouring bronze. So that's why I found it to be quite interesting to take it from this angle than going and take his face directly. And of course, he had a lot of fun, and he was looking and smiling when I was taking the picture, which is something I want. And I don't tell to the guy smile or look or do this. As I say, as my principle, nothing is set up, everything is natural. So of course, when you do everything naturally, someone who is setting up, of course, will have a better picture than you. This is the case. But still, I'm an old school, and I don't like mess with the things. And when I teach photography, I tell people how I'm doing that and how they can do that instead of setting things up for them. So next time when they're alone, they cannot do anything on their own. I'm showing them the right thing, and then if they decide, they can set it up later. For me, it's not a problem. Again, another example of frame in a frame. Also, another thing I want to tell, when you are with people, it's always a good idea to get close to them. You know, when you get close to people, you get more interesting pictures. So this is taken in a Kurdish area, like close to Iraqi border, during the wedding, and the portrait of a little girl is again in Nepal. You see how close I'm getting to people sometimes. I mean, I really get very, very close sometimes. I mean, there's just like 20, 25 centimeters sometimes. And that makes me create more interesting pictures. And the way of doing that, as I explained earlier, is always communication. It's very important how you communicate. Don't sneak, don't hide your camera, just show that you are taking picture. Look at them, smile. You don't need to speak the language. Even if you need to talk, you can speak your own language, German, I don't know, Chinese, whatever. You can speak your language. It doesn't matter, because when you try to communicate, people feel safer. They feel more comfortable with you. But if you don't communicate at all, then they'll be more suspicious about you and they will not be comfortable. So the communication is either the way you look, the way you approach, or you try to talk to them. But when you talk to them, you have to be careful that you don't lose the picture, because when you talk to people and you just change their position most of the time. So you have to be really careful with that. That's why talk when you need to, but if you don't need to talk, just as I say in my previous priest example, move your eye, roll your eyes, or look at them and try to say something with your look. You've seen this one. That's also opening of a church in Romania. We went there because people were supposed to have really traditional clothes, but after entering to European Union, people are much more modern. It's very difficult to find someone with traditional clothes in Romania anymore. It's really get harder comparing to the past. Okay. And lately, I have a company called Terra Photo right now in United Kingdom, in London. And I'm doing private photography tours. I've been there for a couple of months, so I just started, but thanks to pandemics, I cannot really go fast as much as I wanted. But I will always be very happy to see you, or if you need anything, if you have any questions, you can always write me and communicate with me. And now I'm going back to the main screen. Yes. As I said here, I just tried to explain how I'm looking at the things, how I'm approaching people, how I'm taking pictures, and what I'm trying to teach the people. As I say, it was just like kind of a glimpse of what I'm really doing. And it cannot be like the real experience itself, like when you go and shoot and do everything right there in the field. That's why I studied law, and I could never be a really good lawyer. I tried to do it for a while, but I really hated it, because I always wanted to be outside. I wanted to travel. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to do my own things. So that's why after doing and achieving all of that, now I really enjoy sharing my experience. I like to share my experience, actually. And normally, I never hide any of my information. I mean, whatever I know, I always like to share it, and I enjoy sharing it. And I always try to do my best. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. And I apologize for any problems that we had during the Zoom meeting or anything. I hope that you enjoyed it, basically. Thank you very much for coming and seeing my mini photography workshop.